to order, and welcome everyone to the April 26, 2021 version of the Architectural and Site Control Commission meeting here in Portola Valley. It's 4 o'clock. We've got a modest but interesting agenda. And Laura, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Koch,
Here.
Commissioner Sill,
Here.
Commissioner Chung,
Here, sorry, my video is telling me that my camera is failing to start by the app. I'll keep working on it.
Great.
okay, thanks. Vice Chair Wilson will not be present this evening, and Chair Ross.
Present. I am here. Very good. Let's see. Before we go to our business items, I'll invite any member of the public who would like to address us on an item that is not on tonight's agenda to raise their hand with the Zoom function so they can be recognized and have a chance to speak.
And we do have one.
Great. You tune them in. Do you know who it is?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so I have a question that I'm asking on my behalf as a full-time, like a person with a full-time career, but also on the behalf of other long-time senior PV residents. And we would like to all hear if there is any chance that Neelys are going to appear on the agenda on the May 10th. Thank you.
Laura, did you get that question? Are you able to?
The Neely Winery application will not be on the ASCC agenda on May 10th. I can confirm that.
Great. All right. Thank you, Laura. And thanks, Laura P., for your question. Any other questions or comments?
I'm not sure if Laura has her hand up again. I'm sorry, through the chair, I'm gonna allow her to talk again just to make sure that we haven't cut her off.
Sure. Laura?
Sorry, so actually I didn't hear response because I think there's probably some Zoom bug, or that when I was on unmute, I didn't hear the response. Thank you. So if someone can repeat that, sorry about that. Thank you.
No problem.
Sure, the Neely Winery will not be on the May 10th ASCC agenda. So it will be on a future agenda that we will notice to all the neighbors within 1,000 feet and post on the town webpage, but I can confirm it will not be May 10th.
Great. Thanks. Okay, any other hands up?
There are no others.
Great. I'll close oral communications and move on to our items of new business. Item 1 is the architectural review of an application for an addition and remodel to an existing residence at 1330 Westridge Drive, the Ashford residence. Dylan, you have the floor.
All right, let me go ahead and share my screen. I'm going to move everybody's beautiful faces over here. So if I look like I'm not looking at the screen, it's because I'm dual screened at the moment. Can everyone see my screen?
No problem.
Yep.
Oh, actually, hold on one second. There we go. Just give me a moment. I'm not sure what's happening. For whatever reason, it's not letting me do this.
Alan does it all the time and it always works.
I know. This is the first,
The one that
the first
always
glitch,
gets it to work.
the first glitch in a year. So you're doing pretty well.
Yeah. My record, I guess, is now tarnished. Okay, I think I fixed it. I guess Zoom is just having a bad Monday. So here we go. Let's see if we try this again. Take two. All right. Can everyone see my screen? Is it showing up full?
Yes.
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 Okay, great. All right. Okay. There we go. All right. Thank you, Chair Ross. Staff will begin with an overview of the site. So this is a 1 acre gross site. This 1 acre gross site is situated on the westerly side of Westridge Drive from the intersection of Portola Road and Westridge. An existing 2,088 square foot residence with a 493 square foot attached garage is on the subject property. The site is relatively flat with an 8.2% average slope and is within the relatively stable ground categories for the town's ground movement potential map. The scope of work includes a 430 square foot rear addition to the existing 2-car attached garage and a 212 square foot rear addition to the existing primary bedroom suite. A new 200 square foot attached wood deck is also proposed adjacent to the new primary bedroom suite of the residence. So wood decking is generally not considered additional impervious surfaces as defined by the town code, as the spacing between the timbers allows for water penetration into the underlying grade. Staff just notes that there is, we have conditioned the project to ensure that only the wood decking has only soil underneath to conform to this interpretation. And so on this slide, the red areas are the proposed additions to the existing residence. Staff notes that there is no tree removal, landscaping, new fencing, or new exterior lighting as part of the proposal. So the recommended condition number 1 on this project requires that any additions or modifications to the proposal be reviewed by the planning director at minimum, and they may forward to the ASCC for review and approval. This is just in particular if any new exterior lighting is proposed during the building permit submittal, staff will review it during the plan check stage and refer to the director if there are any issues related to it. And so moving to the proposed front and rear elevations. So this blue box notes an existing door is being removed and a new picture window is being installed on the rear portion of the garage addition. So this is the garage, and then this is kind of the back part of the garage. Or I'm sorry, you can't see my pointer. This is
No
the
problem.
front of the garage, and then this is the rear of the garage. And then these are the proposed side elevations. And so these boxes know either an expanded window or new windows on these elevations. So this window is being expanded from this original size. And then these are 2 new windows as part of that primary bedroom suite. And then additionally, you have this new window right here, a picture window. And so turning towards the materials and finishes. So all the materials, colors, and finishes are proposed to match the existing residence. And just for context and comparison, this picture right here is of the existing residence. So these are going to be the materials that will be part of the addition and remodel, the exterior additions. All right, and so turning to public comments, as part of the required noticing process, the town sent out a notice to neighbors within a 300-foot radius of the project regarding tonight's review. So staff did receive 1 comment regarding increased impervious surfaces areas as and additional runoff from the proposal. And so staff just wanted to note that the project did not trigger a site development permit, and then therefore there were no civil plans required to be submitted for review by both planning and the town engineer. And so typically this type of matter in terms of additional runoff or additional impervious surfaces and in respect to the roof surfaces. This would be handled within the drainage plan that will be included in the building permit submittal. And so that the concern that the neighbor raised at 15 Possum Lane will be addressed at that stage. Staff didn't find any issues or concerns related to the project, particularly because the area that the neighbor mentioned on his property, they are not directly adjacent, but it's more of a downhill of the subject property. So my understanding is that through the building permit submittal, the matter will be minimized, the runoff will be minimized. And so moving to the required findings, these are the required findings of the town code that the ASCC must make to approve the architectural review permit. And then these are the design guideline criteria for review. Staff analyzed the project primarily within the site and architectural design components listed on this slide because there was no new landscaping proposed in the scope of work. And so staff concludes that the project conforms to both the town code, design guidelines, the project conforms to both the town code and design guidelines and is exempt from CEQA. Therefore, staff recommends that the ASCC review the plans and staff report, offer feedback or additional conditions of approval, and approve the architectural review permit subject to staff's recommended conditions of approval as noted in attachment 1 of staff's report. This concludes staff's presentation and we're available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dylan. Commissioners, does anyone have questions for staff?
No questions from me.
All right.
None here.
Kenny, any questions?
The ones I had were already answered by Dylan. Thank you.
Good. I had only one question, and that was just to wonder whether an exterior light fixture might end up being required by code at the exit door from the garage addition. And I know that it's not before the building department yet, but it just looked to me like there might need to be a light fixture there.
Correct. So I spoke with the applicant and the project team related to this matter. We had a bit of a email exchange imminently close to when the staff report needed to be provided.
Mm-hmm.
And so the original fixture that was proposed was not compliant. So my understanding as the project team is currently scoping out a replacement fixture to be reviewed by planning staff, the planning director during plan check review. So the main reason for the note in the staff report kind of emphasizing that if there is an exterior light fixture added to the proposal during building plan check, that if there are any issues or concerns, I will be forwarding this to Laura, the planning director, and then if she feels that at minimum one ASCC member needs to review the fixture and approve it, then that is something that we can add as a condition of approval if the ASCC finds that necessary to approve the project this evening.
All right. Well, thank you for that answer. No other questions? Then I'll open the public comment period and, oh, I'm sorry. I should back up a little bit and let the applicant speak. Dylan, your presentation was so thorough. I know that sometimes applicants don't even want to speak, but it is appropriate to ask. And if the applicant's here and would like to add something, we're all ears.
I'm the applicant, Jim Ashford, and we moved into this property about 7 months ago and found that the master suite bathroom is quite small. So that's really what's pushing this. The existing bedroom is just basically moving out to create space to build a proper master suite bathroom. The garage also is being expanded to house a third car and some storage. So that was the driving force behind this addition.
Thank you. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, not at this time. We'd want to get moving into the permit process and
Of course.
try to get going here before we have some bad weather.
All right. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Ashford?
None for me.
And for me,
Mhm.
All right, none for me either. All right, thank you for that. Now we'll move on to the public comment period. And if any member of the public would like to comment on this application, now's your chance. Please raise your hand. We'll give Laura a minute or two to identify anyone.
I'm not seeing any hands up.
All right, I'll close the public hearing and return to commissioners for their comments. Megan, would you like to begin?
Sure. Well, I think the plan is quite straightforward. There's no new materials we need to consider, and I think it just makes sense. I really appreciate that they're keeping a single story structure, and look forward to, one of us taking a peek at the light fixture when it does come, because I'm sure that pedestrian door from the garage will need it, and the new decking off of the master as well. So I think this is a really nice project.
Great. Thank you. Kenny.
I agree with Megan. Everything looks like it makes sense. The one thing that came to mind was the new siding that's going on, and it seems prudent to suggest that maybe siding with a matching finish, but that isn't wood, and something more fireproof. Maybe something that you would at least benefit from the long run in terms of insurance costs, or overall costs, if your insurance company makes you reside the house, which is the kind of thing that I think we're all thinking might eventually happen with these kinds of requirements. So, but overall, it looks like a fairly straightforward project. So, I'm fine with it.
Thanks, Kenny. Al.
yeah, I agree with Kenny and Megan. I think the project makes a lot of sense. I'm happy to see that the house isn't getting any higher. I'm happy to see that the house isn't getting torn down and that you're just doing a modest addition. It looks like you've got a beautiful lot with some wonderful trees, and I'm glad that you're not having to impact those at all. So it makes a lot of sense to me. I think that Kenny's point is certainly reasonable. Wood siding in the long run is not going to make sense in Portola Valley, but since it is just an addition, and you've got a lot of other wood siding that you're not touching, I certainly understand why you're approaching it this way on this project. So no, I'm completely in favor of it. I think it's a good proposal.
Thanks, Al. Well, I don't really have anything to add here. It is a very straightforward proposal. The continuation of the existing finishes and materials, I think, is very appropriate. I also would be open to, and I don't think it would even have to come back to an ASCC member, but if you find a cementitious siding material that is the same profile as the wood that you're proposing, then that would be, a easily approvable change, I believe. But I'm certainly not ready to make that a condition. I think this is a very respectful project in terms of the site and the neighbors, the design guidelines. I'm all in favor of it. Any other discussion before someone proposes a motion? All right, is someone ready to make a motion?
Sure, I'll move that we approve the project with the conditions proposed by the planning staff.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kenny. Any further discussion, amendments? None. Let's take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No one. And Jane absent. So that passes 4-0. And good luck. You're ready to move on to the building permit phase.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay,
Good night.
good night.
All right. That finishes up item 1. Item 2 on our agenda tonight is architectural review of an application for a new in-ground pool and patio expansion to an existing residence. It's at 14 Buck Meadow Drive. It's the Rubin residence. And once again, Dylan has the details.
Okay, let's see if I can redeem myself and get this to work this time. So, all right. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Great. All right, thank you, Chair Ross. So staff will begin with an overview of the site. So this 2.9 acre gross site is situated on the westerly side of Buck Meadow Drive from the intersection of Redberry Ridge and Buck Meadow. An existing 4,537 square foot residence with a 506 square foot attached garage and a 284 square feet detached garage are located on the subject property. The site is also subject to the Blue Oaks Planned Unit Development, or PUD statement. So the scope of work proposed includes a new 785 square foot pool within the existing rear yard and a 1,483 square foot expansion to on-site patio areas. This expansion includes a new 853 square foot patio area surrounding the proposed pool and a 586 additional square feet to the existing rear patio for an outdoor barbecue area. A new attached trellis within this existing rear patio area is also proposed. However, it does not count towards impervious surface areas, as the underlying patio is already included in site calculations. So this slide, the right is a zoomed out view, bird's eye view, if you will. And then the left is a more zoomed out view of the proposed site improvements. So the Blue Oaks PUD requires a 200 square foot reduction in maximum floor area for the site for pools up to 700 square feet in size. Pool sizes that are over 700 square feet require a reduction of 1 square foot of floor area to 1 square foot of pool area. That's the ratio of reduction. So therefore, the proposed 785 square foot pool requires a 285 square foot reduction in maximum floor area calculations, which is noted in the max FA parentheses pool row in the table to the left. With the proposed pool, the site now has roughly 88 square feet remaining floor area for buildings. Staff also notes that the complete 785 square feet of the pool area is counted towards on-site impervious surface calculations per the Blue Oaks PUD. So the 5,907 square feet figure in the left side table also reflects this full allocation of 785. And then staff just wants to note the green areas are just the additional patio areas that are off the side of the house, and then all of the new patio area surrounding the new swimming pool. So there are 3 new fixtures that are proposed: a path lighting for an existing staircase off the rear patio area, which is the 3 blue circles that I'm hovering my pointer next to. There are 2 sconce lights attached to the new trellis. These are the 2 new sconce lights. And then there's 1 post light at the edge of the outdoor barbecue area. So all the fixtures comply with the town's outdoor lighting regulations. The one thing that staff has done, it has conditioned the post lights, the post light and the sconce to be fitted with an appropriate bulb. So it's a 40 watt and a 7 watt respectively, in order to be dark sky compliant per the manufacturer's information. And so this is condition 5 in the recommended conditions that are attachment 1 of the staff's report. And so now turning to the materials and the finishes. So the materials for the patio expansion, trellis, and outdoor barbecue area will match as best possible the existing residence. So the current materials for the residence, including the patio, those colors are in compliance with the town LRV light reflectivity value requirements. So just going from left to right, this will be the stone fascia for the new barbecue. This will be the stain color for the new trellis. And then lastly, this will be the stone for the patio expansion and the new patio surrounding the pool. And so turning to public comments, as part of its required noticing process, the town sent out a notice to neighbors within a 300-foot radius of the project site regarding the ASCC's review of the project for tonight. There were no public comments received by staff at the time of creating this presentation or the staff report. And so now turning to the findings that ASCC must make to approve the architectural review permit. All the findings are listed on this slide. And turning to the design guidelines, these are the criteria for review. And so staff primarily used the site and landscaping components of the design guidelines in consideration of there were no additional structures outside of a trellis being proposed, which is attached to the main residence. And so with that, staff concludes that the project conforms to both the town code and the design guidelines and is also exempt from CEQA. So staff recommends that the ASCC review the plans and staff report, offer any feedback or additional conditions of approval as needed, and approve the architectural review permit subject to staff's recommended conditions of approval as noted in attachment 1 of staff's report. And so with that, this concludes staff's presentation and we're available for any questions.
Thank you, Dylan. Commissioners, do you have questions for staff?
You know, I actually have a question. Just listening to the radio this morning in the car and hearing about Marin County's new water usage restrictions, and one of them was filling pools. And just wanting to know if there's any talk around town if any such drought measures might be taken in Portola Valley or our county in general.
Dylan or Laura, do you have any thoughts on that?
It looks like Jeremy wanted to provide a comment on it.
Great. Jeremy,
Hi,
please.
everybody. So we have started to talk internally about what something may look like per the direction of the mayor and the sustainability committee. Right now, Cal Water hasn't taken any measures in our part of the world related to drought, but I suspect we'll continue to have a conversation. We're actively talking to them to give us some advance notice if they think they're going to do something. But that's really where the status of the conversations are right now. Certainly, if there was any thoughts or recommendations from the ASCC, be happy to take that back to sustainability and the mayor. Thanks.
Good.
Thank you, Jeremy.
And then my other questions were, we haven't seen placement of pool lighting. So this is actually for, unless we have it and it just wasn't in Dylan's presentation, and then where the actual heater and pumps and all of that will be placed, so we can consider noise screening. Do we have any of that?
Yes, let me get to the slide. So give me a moment. So I don't believe there was any pool lighting fixture provided in this proposal. I'll defer to the project team to elaborate on that. But and can everyone see my screen again?
Yes.
Yep.
So the new pool equipment is located right here.
Okay.
So in terms of screening, if the ASCC wants to place additional measures in terms of screening the equipment for noise attenuation and visibility, that is something that part of the purview of ASCC.
Sure.
In terms of screening measures and whatnot, I don't believe any were implemented, but I will defer to the project team to elaborate more on that.
Yeah, and that might be part of the PUD for Blue Oaks as well. They have some suggestions.
Correct. And so this has been approved by the Blue Oaks Design Review Board, or the HOA, with the disclaimer that the town staff is the ultimate reviewer of the PUD document. And so I would imagine, I agree, I would imagine that there will be additional measures required to screen this equipment, particularly to the adjacent neighbor that is located up here where my pointer is hovering.
Yep.
Anything else, Megan?
Nope.
All right, Al?
I had one question on the post light. I think that you said there was one that was going to be used, Dylan, and when I look at the plans, I see three, but maybe I'm imagining something. I mean, I see the one that you kind of have shaded yellow, but if you go just a little bit to the right of that, there looks like another one, and then if you go sort of below the pool, it looks like there's another one.
Yeah, I see those as well.
Yes,
And-
I do see those, so I stand corrected.
I don't think it's a big deal, but I think it just reinforces your concern that we really want to make sure that those lights are night sky compliant, since there's really going to be three instances of it.
Correct. Yeah, I think my eye just didn't catch it when I was reviewing the plans, just
Yep.
given that this is kind of very close to the the patio kind of
Right.
clip art, if you will.
Yep.
But yes, so what I can do, so that condition will carry over to the 3 fixtures instead of just the 1.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Good catch, Al. Kenny, do you have any questions?
No, none that weren't already answered. Thank you.
Great, thanks. I wanted to follow up just a little bit on the pool equipment screening. In the town's ordinance regarding sound levels, we address air conditioning equipment, among other things. And I'm just curious if there's similar standards for pool equipment for the sound pressure rating at the property line. This may be a pretty obscure question.
I don't know the answer to it, that's for sure.
Right.
I can see if I can find the section of the code that relates to that if it is within the pool equipment. So give me one moment, please.
Sure. No,
I think we can verify, but I think our general noise standard at the property line would apply regardless of the type of equipment that we're talking about. So if maybe
Yes,
Dylan look at the code and see if there's something different, but that would be my general assumption.
Great. And I'm pretty certain that most pool equipment manufacturers, and certainly the people buying the pool equipment, are also concerned about keeping the noise levels down. And I see Ms. Rubin nodding her head in agreement. Yes, none of us wants to introduce a lot of noise into our own homes either. It occurs to me that the visual screening may also be desired from the public viewpoint, because it looks to me like maybe that equipment will be visible from the street, from Buck Meadow. I can't be sure, but just looking at the geometry, it looks like that might be the case. in any event, I think if there's just some small shrubbery or something like that for screening, it could probably be reviewed at the staff level without coming back to us. And sorry for delving into discussion there, but anyway, any other questions for staff? All right, invite the applicant team to add to Dylan's presentation if they wish.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bruce Chan. I'm the project landscape architect. I appreciate the time that all of you put into reviewing these projects on a regular basis. It's quite a task, and I know that sometimes you run across some unusual things. In any event, to answer a couple of questions that came up, yes, there are 3 light fixtures, 3 post light fixtures. In terms of the lighting in the pool, there will be 3 fixtures, and they will be on the western wall of the pool, so they will not face the street. So they won't be visible, in other words, from the street side. And of course, the pool will be fitted with a cover as well. As to the pool equipment, we would plan on putting in shrubs consistent with those species specified in the Blue Oaks PUD guidelines. So we will screen that. Beyond that, if you have any questions, I'm open.
All right, thank you. Kenny, do you have any questions?
No,
Right.
none. Yeah, with regard to the screening, I'm satisfied with the language in the conditions as written by the town
Great.
for the pool equipment.
All right, Megan, do you have any questions?
No, I think that the pool lighting has been answered, and that seems, we usually approve 2 pool lights and 1 hot tub light. I think that I'm all set. Thank you.
And Al, do you have any questions for the
No
applicant?
questions.
Great. I don't either. So I'll close the presentation portion and ask any members of the public who would like to comment on this application to speak up now. Please raise your hand with the Zoom function.
And I am not, yeah, there is one, Christy Corley.
Very good. Christy, you're on.
Thank you. I just wanted to, I know there's a lot of pools being built. What are our rules with pool equipment? I guess you were going to answer that. I mean, this has nothing to do with his project. I'm all for it, but I could have a pool built around me, and what rules do we have in town with pool equipment, and on what side and how many feet away?
Good question. And I can give you a very general answer, which is that the town does have a sound ordinance that restricts sound levels above a certain threshold. I don't know, and the reason I was raising the question is to see if there's anything specific about pool equipment in that ordinance. And if Dylan hasn't had a chance to check, I'll bet that
I have.
You have, very good.
Yeah, and so when I read the code kind of in a cursory review, it doesn't have a specific call out for pool equipment, but it does talk about that exterior noise level. And so for residential, typically during the daytime, the code notes that as from 7 to 10 p.m. daytime hours. There's 2 numbers, they're decibel ratings. There's a 50 and a 65. Generally, my understanding is the 50 is the average noise, so taking over a period of time. The 65 would be at any one point where it exceeds 65. So we would be looking for equipment to fall within those categories, 50 to 65 generally. In the nighttime, it actually is reduced to 40 decibels, and that max is 55. And nighttime is the hours not covered by daytime, so 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. In terms of pool equipment location on sites, Pool equipment is generally subject to setbacks as any other structure. So it would be typically a 50-foot front, 20 side and rear. It really depends on the location, what zone we're in, but the town is predominantly covered by R1 zones, and those are the setbacks for that. So that kind of answers both of those questions.
Okay,
as
is
I
there any
understand.
way we can get wherever the pool equipment is, that the direct resident would be notified? Can we add that to our ordinance?
That's I'll just say again in general terms, adding things to ordinances in any town, even this town, is a big ask, but adjacent neighbors in an application like this do get notified of applications. And if they contain pool equipment, that information would be available to anybody looking at the application. And Dylan, I just wanted to follow up. Are those sound levels measured at the property line or at the equipment?
It looks like it is measured at the property line.
Right. Okay. And just for general knowledge, the decibel rating, the sound pressure falls off with this as a square of the distance. So something that's 20 feet away from the property line is much quieter than it is immediately at the source. Not that it can't be heard. Also, a range of 50 to 65 decibels is about what you'd expect to find in, say, a room that a conversation is taking place in. In other words, it's not loud noise. It's not like a stereo system or a rock concert or something. But Christy, you raised some very good questions, and as pools go in, it's certainly important to check to see where the equipment is and how noisy it is.
Well,
And
for example, in this drawing, can you show me where the equipment is so I'll be able to recognize it? I'm not necessarily commenting on this project, but I want to be able to recognize it in a drawing.
all right, Dylan, would you mind pulling up that drawing again and pointing out the location of the equipment?
Sure, just give me a moment.
Sorry, I'm all for it. You guys enjoy your pool. I just, for my future and living in Portola Valley, how do we recognize where equipment is?
Did you want me to?
Yes, Dylan, go
fill that
ahead
one,
and
Dave?
point it
Okay.
out. Yes.
So typically what happens is with pool equipment, so I'm going to answer it in kind of two parts. The reason why this pool was forwarded to the ASCC is because the Blue Oaks Plan unit development requires that the ASCC review this type of structure. Typically, if it's a standalone pool permit, that may be subject to just a building permit, unless there's other items that require it to be elevated to ASCC review. So that would be at the discretion of the director to determine the level of review. The second part is identifying the pool equipment on a plan set. Generally, this is the common note. So there'll be a new pool equipment information.
I'm sorry, I could barely see that, but that's, okay, so you're saying that's it?
Yeah, it's a little bit, it's more legible on the plans that are attached to the staff report in the
Okay.
ASCC packet. This is a picture that was cut from the plans, so it may be a little bit challenging. So what I can do, if you give me.
Sorry, I'm learning in the process.
Let me
And
just pull-
also in the past, we have seen if there is actual like fencing type structure to surround the pool equipment, we usually see a rendering of that. It sounds like this one might be more screened by plant material.
Correct, that's my understanding.
Okay, thank you for pointing it out. I'm learning.
All right, thank you for your question and comment, Christy. Is there anybody else from the public that would like to make a comment?
There are no other hands up.
All right, I'll close the public hearing and come back to commissioners for discussion. Al, would you like to start?
Sure. This looks like a well thought out proposal to me. There's the expansion falls within the building envelope. The materials and colors match what we've already got. No tree removal, no landscaping, no new fencing. It all looks good. I think that the lighting looks reasonable for the functionality that you're going to get out of the area. So to me, it's a good proposal, and I think we should go forward with it.
Great, thank you. Megan.
Yeah, I agree with everything Al said. One thing I will just tell the owner, which is a great opportunity now that you will have a pool, is to invest in a pump for the pool in case of fire danger. So Don with the Woodside Fire, you can give him a call and he has a list of pumps that they recommend. And it's also nice for the fire department to know that you actually have one as well.
Very good point, Megan.
But I think this is a really nice project.
Thank you. Kenny, do you have any comments?
I agree with Al and Megan. I think the project looks pretty straightforward, including as far as how it complies with the town policies. I'm positive about it.
Great, thank you. And once again, you guys have covered all the bases. I don't have anything to add. I'm in favor of the project and look forward to a motion. I'll entertain a motion.
Okay, I'll make the motion to approve the project with the conditions in our staff report.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? There are none. This project passes here by 4-0 with Jane absent.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. All right. Now we have a discussion of the proposed wildfire preparedness building code amendments. And I'm guessing that's one of the reasons why Jeremy is with us, but correct me if I'm wrong. Staff, how are you going to present this to us?
Yes, that is why Jeremy's with us. He is going to have to switch to calling in, so I don't know if he's here at the moment. Jeremy, did you want to give an introduction to this? Okay, so as background, the Wildfire Preparedness Committee, as you know, is an ad hoc committee. Al used to serve on it, and now Megan does on behalf of the ASCC. And they put forward a number of different recommendations that the town has been working on implementing since that time. So we've been going through the different, and so the one that's in front of you today, we've been calling the home hardening subcommittee, and those were changes to the building code to increase fire safety. And so the town has been working with Tom, who's a building official with our consulting company, as well as with the fire district. And Marshall Hurd is here this afternoon on behalf of the fire district to talk about those proposed changes. It looks now like Jeremy has his hand up, so I'm sorry we're having a little extra technical problems tonight. So let me just see. Jeremy also wants to say something on his other line.
Hi, guys. Sorry
Hello.
about that. The timing was perfect on that for me to make this harder than it needed to be. So my apologies. And I appreciate the grace in you guys allowing me to go get my shot right now. So I thought Laura just did an excellent job. This has been an ongoing process at the town level for a while now. And if there is, of all of the recommendations that the council accepted from the Wildfire Preparedness Committee, this is by far one of the more substantial ones, because it does bring a new set of needs on prospective future and those who are doing expansions on their properties. We recognize that, we understand that. So we're not taking this set of recommendations lightly. But what we do hope to do today is talk through them to the best of our abilities. We've got a nice video to show you in a moment. one of you guys can take the lead on that. It sounded like you'd introduced both folks who are here today, Marshall and Tom. Why don't I stop and Tom, if you want to talk a little bit more about yourself and go ahead and go into the meat of the presentation with your slideshow, that would be great. And then feel free at any time to start bringing in those materials that we have available through that email that I sent out. Thank you.
Excuse me. Good afternoon. My name is Tom Trimberger. I'm with the Interwest Consulting Group. We provide building department services to 270 jurisdictions in California, including Portola Valley. And I was asked to help put together some codes to formally adopt the recommendations from the Wildfire Preparedness Ad Hoc Committee. They had many recommendations. I am attempting to address all of the ones that pertain to how buildings are built. And I worked very closely with Don Bullard at the Woodside Fire Prevention District. And Commissioner, you just said in the last presentation that adding an ordinance is a big task. Well, let's talk about doing just that. And let me see what I can, let me see if I can, there we go. Do you have my screen?
Not yet.
Okay.
No, I don't see it.
So
Tom, I have the presentation on mine if you want me to kind of pilot that for you, if you don't mind, or if you'd like.
are you seeing my screen now?
Nope.
No.
No, okay. I thought I had, well, then why don't we go, if you can put it up, that would be fine. It's only a few slides long.
Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, I'm not sure how I'm getting back to Zoom here. Let me pull this up here for myself. I was contacted by Jeremy to follow up and codify, like I said, all the recommendations from the Wildfire Preparedness Committee. And one of the things, so right now there are state codes that address certain areas in the state for wildfire protection for new buildings. City of Portola Valley has existing ordinances on the books that add extra requirements. And then this will be another bite at the apple, so to speak, to enhance those requirements again. One of the biggest issues is applying these to existing homes and existing commercial buildings. So there is no mandate to do work to wildfire protect your home. But this code would provide conditions that as alterations are done, certain elements would be required to be hardened. The two biggest ones are for roofs, and this applies to existing buildings now, but for roofs, when you replace your roof or put a new roof on, state code says it needs to be a Class A roof, the highest level, and or a preservative treated fire retardant wood shake or shingles. Our code is to go to Class A only and require that for roofs. Most roofs do meet this requirement. The most current asphalt shingles are Class A rated. Again, tile, slate roofs, clay roofs are Class A as well.
Through the chair, Tom, if you want Dylan to advance the slides, if you could let him know.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, why don't we go to the next slide then?
Oh, okay.
And like I said, the studies are finding that to best protect homes and to protect existing neighborhoods, it helps to apply standards to existing buildings. Over time, as these buildings get new roofs, get new siding, get updated, they can become more fire resistant. And they're finding that even if some of the houses are hardened and others are not, it does allow wildfire to progress and spread. But our approach is to protect neighborhoods as well as we can. So just raising the bar a little bit. So we're looking to protect neighborhoods and wildfire spread, not just individual homes. Okay, go to the next slide, please. So we're going to go a little bit beyond state requirements and local requirements. And that should be use experience from recent wildfires. California has been hit with a lot of wildfires. I expect that still will be a concern with weather patterns in the summer and fall. We're under increased threat from wildfires. We did have the CZU fire a couple years ago that certainly raised concern locally. So let's go to next slide. So the requirements that we are looking to add basically call for a Class A fire resistant roof. Code allows either small 16th inch mesh or ember resistant vents for underfloor and attic vents. We're looking to do away with the 1/16 vent. They tend to clog up with paint and debris, and they are not as effective in protecting from burning embers. Burning embers is one way, especially in windy conditions, that wildfire spreads. Listed ember resistant vents have a material like a steel wool in it that allows the air to go through but catches other solid materials. We're looking for non-combustible exterior walls. We do have an ordinance that is covered a little bit in our current city ordinance. We're looking to protect exterior decks. That is another lesson learned that we're finding about how wildfire spreads and how it threatens homes. Exterior decks, wood decks are a hazard for catching embers and for catching fire just from radiant heat from adjacent fire. That's often how fire spreads to a home. Code requires a fire resistant walking surface on new decks, but that's as far as it goes. We are looking also to essentially provide like a skirt or an enclosure around the bottom of that deck if it's closer than 4 feet to the ground. if it's up 15 feet from the ground and embers come and catch, debris and dry leaves and weeds that, are found under the deck, that's not going to threaten to catch the deck. But if the deck is down low enough, like 4 feet, not only is it harder to get in there and clean, but that's one way that fires have been spreading recently. So this code ordinance would require a fire resistant skirt or enclosure for that. We're also looking at some other things too. Fences, wood fences are acting like a wick, where it will allow the fire to spread along that fence, along with the wind, and spread through neighborhoods. Also accessory structures, gazebos, trellises are another way that fires are spreading through dry combustible timber. So we're looking to address that in this ordinance as well. Okay, next slide. So these are all from the subcommittee, and they've been shown to be effective. There have been some pretty dramatic instances where wildfires have encroached on urban areas, and the older neighborhoods built before the state code requirements came in, fire spread very easily. The more recent homes built to a recent standard, those homes in those neighborhoods survived much better. Codes are found to be cost effective. One study said that for every $1 you spend hardening your home results in $4 worth of benefit. I'm not exactly sure how they calculated that. But most of these issues are not expensive, nor are they limiting for architectural appeal. Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. So also as part of this ordinance, I found it necessary to rewrite and relocate and clarify some of the existing code language that the city had. So the proposed code ordinances affect the building code, the residential code, and the plumbing code. And the intent is to make it more understandable and more effective, and being more easier to apply and clearly show what the requirements will be. So there are issues in here that are just carryover from the previous code. Keep going, please. So this would apply to new buildings, would apply to replacing a roof, replacing exterior siding when it's more than 10% of the roof or 10% of the siding. Window replacements are required to comply. That's one of the more expensive. None of these are very, very expensive, but one thing with windows, the code requirement is for exterior windows to be, excuse me, dual paned and to have tempered glass. Energy requirements generally allow or require at least dual pane windows, but for tempered glazing in the window, they're finding that that's important. Windows let in the radiant heat, and when they hit that heat and they break out, that allows fire to intrude into the home. So that generally adds 10 to 15% to the cost of windows. So when you're building a new house, it's not a big ticket item, but if you're replacing existing windows, it could add 10 to as much as 15%. Replacing sidings, if you're doing new decks, that requires code features for wildfire hardening. Generally, when you do the work, if there's an applicable code section for the work, then that code section would be applied to the new work, not to make the existing home, to make the whole home comply. That is only triggered for very, very large remodels where you gut a building and start over. The city has existing language that if you're replacing 50% of the interior walls, or if you're replacing 50% or more of the exterior wall covering, then they treat that as a new building. So we're using that same language to apply to upgrading the whole home for fire resistance. So if you're completely gutting the house or a commercial building, then the code modifications would apply. And again, there's nothing saying, okay, homeowners, you got to spend money and go do this stuff. That's not the intent at all. This is only that when you do choose to do work, then the code amendments would apply. Okay, next slide. Exceptions. Recognizing that, we don't want to be hard, heavy-handed. Any small work under $10,000 in valuation is exempt. Small re-roofs and repairs, if you're only replacing repairing a small part of your roof, if you're replacing a small part of your siding, less than 10% of the roof or the siding, then you're exempt from the code amendments. Next slide. So how often do these things get triggered? Well, it would be for new buildings, additions, and very significant alterations. If you're changing the outside of your building, it could apply. Re-roofs and window replacements, I mentioned, that does apply. The vast majority of building permits we issue don't have anything triggered by the new amendments. If you're doing kitchen or bath remodel, there's nothing in here that affects the inside of the building, so nothing's triggered. If you're doing repiping or changing out an electrical panel, if you're changing out heating and air conditioning or a water heater, that doesn't trigger anything, there's no effect. If you're putting solar on your roof, it's not affected. Generators are, a lot of people are getting generators, they're getting common. Fire, water damage permits, those are not affected by the codes. Those are generally issues that are interior or just not covered by standards. Next. Next. Okay. So like I said, there are some existing ordinances. The city has existing ordinances requiring fire sprinklers in all buildings over 1,000 square feet. there's an existing requirement for seismic shutoff valves on gas services. There's existing wildfire hardening requirements for exterior walls and for excuse me, there's vegetative clearances, which is really covered by the district. That's not really a standard on how buildings are built. There are requirements for roofing that are also local amendments, and those are being carried through. And there are requirements for exterior walls to be fire resistant. Those are being carried through. Okay, next slide. I went blank. I think that might be it. Next. Okay, so this is, I've got this, I don't have an ability to provide a pointer. I'm not running the screen, but there are a couple of diagrams here that kind of point out what some of the issues are on exteriors of buildings that we're proposing. And next slide, please. Looking at the eave on the underside of the eave has also been found to be a place where embers and fire impinges and where houses start to catch on fire when there's an adjacent wildfire. So our ordinance would require the underside of that eave to be enclosed so as not to catch embers and heat in that location. Okay, there might be one more slide. And I guess that's it. So we've given you a lot of paperwork. I'm sure everybody read every little piece of it. But we've gone through code amendments. I've got them called out one by one. I've got a matrix showing what each amendment is trying to do. I put in some, there's some strikeout language to see where the code amendments fit in the context of the whole code. That was a great part of our effort. And then there's a flow chart showing how work would apply when these wildfire urban interface or wildfire hardening measures, you can call them either one, where those would apply. So with that, if there's any question, I'd be happy to help with some discussion.
Thank you, Tom. That was a very thorough presentation. I'll kick off the questioning with one of my own and then invite everybody else. And that is, I think what's of greatest interest to ASCC commissioners is how these, and to the extent these code changes affect our design guidelines. In other words, where the standards that are used by the ASCC to review applications are not the building codes.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it would be pretty rare for any of us to look up or refer to a building code in our reviews. So I'm hoping that part of the effort to make these codes accessible, understandable, and easily applied is a parallel effort in updating our design guidelines.
Yes, through the chair, I just
Yes, ma'am.
want to make sure that that's clear for the commission. So this is the first step of two separate phases. So these are amendments to the building code, which would apply to all projects once the council, if the council approves and sets an effective date. And then that would change the exterior materials that are allowed on all of the new houses in town. So it would change what you're seeing at the ASCC level. And then we're going to pick up a separate effort to revise the design guidelines to implement additional concepts from the Wildfire Preparedness Committee, and to think about some items that ASCC and Conservation Committee have brought forward as we think about wildfire safety. So we do not think that these building code amendments are in conflict with the design guidelines, but the design guidelines will need to be updated to reflect these best practices. So there's a few areas that I think are probably most important for the ASCC to be aware of in regards to these changes. And my quick summary of them would be, right now we allow wood, shake, and shingle roofs if they are treated, and those would no longer be allowed. We allow wood exterior siding. Now, as the ASCC knows, this is very common, probably on most projects that you review, include wood exterior siding. So that is a very significant change in staff's opinion. And then the other things that are, I think important are the changes to the fences. So this would change that you could not just have a traditional wood good neighbor fence that comes right up to the property, right up to the house. That would change. And so those, I think, are perhaps the biggest items that ASCC would want to be aware of and provide any feedback or any thoughts about.
I don't know if I explained that, but the wood fence requirement would be within 10 feet of the home. It can't be it must be fire resistant. And the current requirement, code requires a Class A roof, which is their most fire resistant standard, or fire retardant shakes and shingles. That's for fire retardant shakes and shingles. Yes, they're treated to be less flammable, less combustible, but they do burn, and it is a lower standard. And in addition, shakes and shingles have been found to be very good at catching embers. Lots of little cracks and things for embers to catch hold. So it was a recommendation of the subcommittee to eliminate that option. And Don Bullard, the fire marshal from Woodside, wholeheartedly wanted this in there.
And Tom, just to kind of piggyback on what you're saying, these treated shingles, an insurance company will look at that and not say, they'll tell you you don't have a safe roof, and they will not continue to cover you. So people are going to run into that anyways. We might as well help them start from the beginning on the right path.
Yeah, and they retard the fire, so it takes longer for it to burn into the house. It is kind of the intent of that, right, not to keep it from catching on fire in the first place.
Right.
What do we know about, like, I just know the name brand of Trex, that decking that's obviously not wood. Is that considered a Class A material?
No, for decking, the Class ABC refers to roofs only. So they look for a fire resistive or non-combustible surface, and Trex is not fire resistive. It's petroleum products.
Yeah, right.
Comments from other commissioners?
One thing, if you don't mind,
Sure.
just occurred to me, I didn't mention, and Megan, I think you mentioned insurance. At this time, insurance companies are going to do what they're going to do. people are struggling with their insurance companies dropping them, such and such. The state of California is trying to create a standard that says you do this much wildfire hardening, and then create a standard for a wildfire hardened home. That may help in the future for discounts or even allowing coverage at all from insurance companies. But at this time, insurance companies aren't lining up to give you a lesser rate because you've done a few wildfire hardening elements.
All right. Okay.
And
Well,
excuse
go
me,
ahead.
one more thing, I'm sorry. We purposely, we did not call out any of the city as having enhanced fire risk. So we didn't provide any excuse for insurance to become a little heavier handed.
Right. Great. Well, thank you very much. I think we're all looking forward to getting these new measures into the codes and baked into the design guidelines. I know we strongly encourage the use of natural materials right now, and that's something that we need to modify just to help people understand that certain natural materials are more flammable than others. Right. Yes, indeed. Well, thanks very much, Tom. And thanks for all your hard work on this.
Oh, my pleasure.
Is anybody else from staff planning to make additional comments, or should we close this item for now?
So a couple of things. We just wanted to make sure that ASCC was aware of these proposed changes, which are significant. We do think will change particularly the exterior materials that we are seeing on buildings. And so we are imagining that we'll propose a phase-in period so that those people that have already at a reasonable point in their design won't have to change their exterior materials. But it is a significant change. And then through the chair, Kenny has his hand up, and then you also should see if there's any members of the public that wish to comment on this item.
Good point. Thank you. And Kenny, please go ahead.
Thanks. I just had a couple minor questions. Overall, I'm very happy to see this effort, and the recommendations for code changes within it all look sensible and timely. The two very minor questions I had. The first, I was unable to find in the time that I spent looking a comparison between log construction, fire safety, and fire retardant wood shingles, for instance. And so the question is, what is the intuition on why we have an exception for log construction to allow it? And then the second question I had was where the threshold amount of $10,000 comes from.
Well, those are good questions. So log construction is basically heavy timber. You can hold a match to a log all day long and it's not going to burn. If you have kindling and small framing that has more surface area for its mass, that will catch fire pretty easily. Log homes are very fire resistant, in fact. So that's the thinking behind that. The $10,000 limit also is an excellent question. That is kind of arbitrary. We can set that wherever we want it. And that's the beauty of local government. They can play with things in that way and try to find a if $10,000 is not a good number, what is? You know, that's a community decision through the city council to determine.
Thank you for those answers. Commissioners, more questions, or shall I go to the public?
No questions for me.
No more
right.
questions from me.
Okay. Well, I'd like to invite the public to comment at this point. If anybody would like to make a comment, please raise your hand with the Zoom function and Laura will alert me.
We have Betsy Morgan Taylor.
Hello, Betsy. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Chair Ross, and hello. Thank you, Mr. Trimberger. You've done a major amount of work for which I'm grateful. I have a minor question. Just listening to the discussion prior to this, Megan had mentioned that the fire marshal posted their recommendations for swimming pool pumps to use as fire protection. I don't know if that might fit into re-landscaping or work of some nature, but I thought your good team might at least consider it. And if you're not the right place for it to land, I was hoping to be able to learn more about that on our town website somewhere. I'm not aware of the pumps. I'd like to be, but I would think that it would be inefficient for each member of the public to call the fire marshal. So thank you.
That's an excellent point. That was not one of the recommendations from the subcommittee, but in the current climate, I think it's a great idea when if you're going to put in a pool, you got a great water source, and it's easy, it's already piped. So that might be something I can bring up with Don Bullard for consideration.
And if I might continue, if someone's going to put in a pool, but let's say that I'm going to do a modest house renovation, I'm not planning on it, but if I were, would that be an opportunity for Laura or someone at the front desk to provide me with a list of items of this nature that may not be directly related to what I'm doing, but it's an opportunity to say, we would appreciate it if you would consider those things on this list that you're willing and able to take on. Just an idea to bring things to people's consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. In this business, we are real good at minimum standards. Codes are minimum standards that we require. We're not so good at providing suggestions, and then often we try not to. But I think that would be some excellent public information that we can provide pretty easily.
And I'll just mention that could tie in with other efforts on the planning department staff to create a frequently asked questions section on the website that addresses various topics that residents are interested in. And certainly fire safety recommendations would be one of those. And I think it could probably be kept to a few simple bullet points with more information available for people who wanted to delve a little deeper. Any other members of the public?
I'm sorry, yes, we have Christy Corley.
Christy, you're on again.
Thank you all. This is an interesting and really important talk, so I thank you for bringing it up. My question too is, if it's not Trex and it's not wood, what would you like to see decks made of? Cement? Can you list some things for me?
There is fire preservative, wood that has been treated to make it meet a standard to be fire resistant. So yeah, it's not completely non-combustible, but fire resistant wood flooring is most common. We do also see that people will put a slate or some kind of surface on it as well.
There are some aluminum decking companies as well. You
Hmm.
know, obviously the metal is not something ideal on a hot day to walk on, but I've done a little bit of research myself. Basically, we could have more information on our website, but I just Googled non-combustible decking materials for residences and found quite a good source.
You
Okay.
can
Can I make
do,
a comment on that?
Yeah.
So if you go to the CalVire website under building standards, all the approved building materials are listed on their website for any type of construction in these different materials, so that they're all approved at the state level.
So maybe we can link that through the town's website.
Yeah,
Excellent idea.
my other question was fencing, listing the materials. I assume it's still the fire pressure wood, or I've seen a lot of people using cables. And then my other question is, yeah, the materials for the external walls. If you're building an ADU and you're supposed to match your current house, now are we looking at a metal ADU with a wood outside of a house? Or I guess that would be ASCC, correct? And then windows, the tinted windows. Lists of companies that the building department could, you know, that the residents could use for a resource would be appreciated.
So the windows is pretty easy to order and to do, and you can even see a little emblem in the corner of the glass that shows when it's tempered. It needs to meet a specific standard to have that requirement.
Right, and tempered does not mean tinted, just by the way, Christy.
Yeah, so none of this is tinted glass. It's a dual pane, and at least one of those panes has to be tempered.
Heat treated, yeah.
And
or wire glass.
Well, no, it's not wire glass. It's just what you would see on your sliding door in your house. It doesn't look any different at all.
Used to be that wire glass would suffice for heat resistant, or maybe the code has changed on that. But
so the code is not requiring a heat resistant glass. They're requiring a tempered glass. So it provides a measure of, it will break, but like a modern glass door, they're resistant to breaking. And then when they break, they break into little small pieces, not big, sharp, jagged pieces like the glass door I ran through when I was a kid. I still got lots of scars. So you also mentioned matching the existing home. You know, if you want to look at hardy plank or cement board, there are a lot of them that look, you know, they're not something that you could put a wood stain on or anything, but they look very similar to wood.
and I suspect more products will be coming on the market that are cementitious or fireproof. I doubt we'll see a return to asbestos siding, although that was very effective at fire resistance. But yes, I think we'll probably see more stucco, cementitious materials in general.
And I should mention, I don't know if I did mention, but there's two different types of stucco. There's the old-fashioned type where it's 3 coats of stucco that's put on with a trowel. That is non-combustible. The other type where you've got your building paper and then foam with a little bit of wire lath and then 1 coat on top of that, that is not a non-combustible.
Right. EFIS, exterior insulated finishing system. Yeah. Looks like stucco, but it's not. Any other questions or comments from the public?
There's no others.
All right. Well, once again, staff, thank you very much for this update. We'll be interested in tracking its progress and looking forward to the arduous process of a code revision and adoption of new ordinances. So I'll close that item and let's go back to the agenda, see what we have left to do. I think we have.
I just want to extend
yes.
Staff's thanks to Tom and to the Woodside Fire Protection District. They've been working really closely on this. Fire Marshal Don Bullard couldn't be here tonight, but Marshall joined us in case there was any questions for him. So we really appreciate you coming to the meeting, Marshall, and we appreciate that collaboration.
Yeah, and especially the comment about the CAL FIRE webpage for non-combustible materials. That's a crucial piece of information.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Commission staff committee reports and recommendations. Are there commissioner reports to make? Has anybody taken any actions in the last couple of weeks?
I'd love to hear what happened at Goya when I was in Hawaii.
Well, you could take a look at the minutes.
Yeah. I mean, as far as you know, all of your interpretation.
Do you want me to give the brief version,
Yeah.
Dave?
Laura, why don't you do that? Yeah.
Yeah, Dave and Jane met with Jake, our planner, myself, to review the changes. This is off the top of my head. We reviewed and approved changes to impervious surface, some fencing, and the way that the solid surfaces were around the composting area and around the garden area. The landscaping changes they thought were pretty significant and thought they needed to be sent back to a conservation committee. So they've been sent back to conservation committee for their review and their recommendations. And then they approved like 1 or 2 different trees but held back on the major changes to the landscaping plan. So more to come on that one. Those applicants have been working with us on a TCO, a temporary certificate of occupancy. So we may see them moving into the house as we're working on the final landscaping.
Right. Thank you, Laura. That was brief and concise and complete, I think.
Oh, good.
All right. Has anybody looked at anything since our last meeting, apart from Goya? Nothing from you all?
Oh, I think I did.
All right, Megan, what did you do?
Any details?
No, I'm gonna get it here. Let's see. I was with.
I'm sorry, I don't remember that one.
Yeah, I know. I know. I think it's for Carol. So, okay, yeah, here we go. Oh, yeah, this is Coronos. And it was basically a removal of one of the decorative fountains, but then an enhancement of another. And this fountain, you know, it's in a center drive court, is pretty substantial in size, but there were 4 lights in it. And I said simply, you know, that's excessive. Even though the neighboring properties will never see it, I just think if we set a precedent for illuminating decorative fountains, we're just in trouble. So that was just sent back to Tom Clope, you know, who is their landscape. But that was the only. I just said, no, I can't approve it.
Good.
Or something else.
All right. Kenny, did you have something?
No.
All right. Okay, are there any public comments relating to commissioner reports?
No public comments.
All right, I'll close that item. Laura, do you have?
I'm sorry, now Betsy has her hand up.
All right, Betsy, go ahead.
Thank you. I actually was not sure when to make this comment because it's not related to your visits. It is a small request to deal with the very, very, very small type that I'm getting when I open up the ASCC report. Maybe I should save this for the end. Or is this the time? I wasn't sure whether this is the last time that I'd receive I'd have an opportunity to speak, but I just wanted to bring to your attention, when I open a town council report or a planning commission report, sometimes when they're very long, the type does actually shrink a bit, but it's still legible. But for the second month in a row, yours is so reduced. If this is just me, my apologies, but it's quite odd that it's so reduced that I have to actually print any page I want to read. I tried to get a magnifying glass on my computer, and it was too difficult. And I have particularly keen close-up vision. So I just was going to request whether there was something that you might be able to address on your end to create, whatever's being done at town council is just great.
I'm sorry,
Betsy,
Betsy,
are
you
you
can't zoom in?
I can't zoom in. I cannot expand those pages no matter what I do, and it stays small on the screen.
Let me check in on this.
If this is an
Yeah.
IT problem, I could take it offline. I don't want to chew up your time.
I'll just give you a real brief, I'll share my own experience. Sometimes staff reports contain very large format documents like plans. And when that happens in the standard view of a PDF, let's say you have your PDF set up so that you see the entire plan page in your viewer, in your window. It will then reduce every other document so that a standard letter size document gets to be the size of a postage stamp.
That's it.
So what I find I need to do is go to the document I want to look at and then tell the Adobe Acrobat, there's a little, if you move your cursor down to the bottom, you see an opportunity to expand the view of that page and just keep clicking on the plus until it's big enough to read.
Oh my gosh, you're a genius. Thank you so much.
I've had the same problem, so that's how you solve it.
I had to figure it out.
All right. No charge.
It will automatically do that if you select single page view instead of rolling view.
Oh, two choices even.
Yep.
I'm in close.
Yeah, if you go into the top menu for view, in most viewers, you'll have a choice between single page view and a scrolling view. The scrolling view will give you problems when the pages are different sizes.
Great tutorial.
Okay. Any other public comments?
No others.
Great. Laura, do you have a staff report?
Just a couple upcoming projects to tell you about. For May 10th, we anticipate having the fire station number 8, back for your review. And then on May 24th, we have 370 Golden Oak, 107 Degas, which is a new house project that you haven't seen before, and 77 Palmer, which you have seen as a conceptual design review coming back for its final approval. So that's a little preview of the next 2 meetings.
Good, thanks.
Thank you for that. All right. The minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review them? Are there
They
any
look
corrections?
fine to me.
It looks fine to me.
Megan, any corrections?
No, no corrections.
Right, none for me either. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I'm sorry, through the chair, we should see if there's any public comments.
Thank you for that reminder. Are there any public comments to be made about the minutes?
And seeing none there in the.
All right, thanks. Okay.
Okay, I move that we approve the minutes as written.
Second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? There are none. So that passes 4-0. And with that, I'd like to adjourn the meeting and thank everybody for their time. See you next
Great.
time.
Thanks a lot.
Everyone. Have a good evening.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
You too. Thank you.